This sounds incredibly cliche when you're talking to a Mexican, but every Mexican will tell you their own family has the best mole recipe. This is true to my family, though. We have the best recipe. My name is Ignacio Nacho Jimenez. I'm a James Beard finalist, also Maestro de Ceremonias at Super Bueno in New York City. Welcome to the Taste Collective. People will always remember a good story, a good moment, rather than a good cocktail. Sure, you can have a good cocktail, it was great, but if the elements of that cocktail weren't really tied into the decor or the music or the hospitality itself, then it will be just a cocktail. Without any intention of community, of heritage, it just everything falls flat. I find the storytelling of Mexican cuisine very compelling and very innovative in so many ways. The innovation of Mexican cooking is incredible. And the best way to experience that is going to the market. We have a dish called Dorilocos, Whoever came up with it in Mexico had opened a bag of Doritos and put jicama, cucumber, onions, tomato in it, And from there, it has been a hybrid ever since. People are putting, pickled pork skins into it. It's at the core of Mexican culture, being innovative. And people don't think about that all the time. You look at a tequila and it's been innovative. You look at the food and it's been innovative. It's as a culture, Mexico, it's always been innovative. I always like to use this as an example, and I use the mole as an example to tell the story of, Mexican innovation. There's not one recipe of mole that is like a seminal French sauce, that you have to go to step A, B, C, D into making a vermeil, Mole is not like that. Every family will tell you that there are different elements to it, that they don't use any chocolate. There's families that they use chocolate, They don't use certain spices, that some people don't use bread. Is that wonderful dish because, so many of the ingredients that constitute mole weren't actually a Mexican origin, So in itself, it's like this DNA of many different, cultures that have landed in Mexico and that eventually we ended up using them. I think that is something wonderful about Mexican culture, that is just takes and makes it their own. The same way that 1800 is honoring those traditions and embracing innovation and making something like tequila. The time and place that you're living in, what and how you make that, it's a story that is closer to who you are, to what you believe on, on what is your intention and what is the story that you're trying to tell, And that's where you find authenticity, right? It's authentic to who? To you. I was excited about the idea of a Mexican-American bar because it represented freedom to me. The way that I can portray and put in front my journey in heritage of a guest experience where no one could tell me whether what I do is traditionally Mexican or not. I felt very confidently about what I was presenting. It was unique to me. Having a space in New York City in the East Village, you instantly feel a sense of belonging. The exposure to, Chinese culture, Latin culture, it's so great. I wanted to, use that exposure to other cultures as a form of strengthening this story that I'm trying to tell. And you don't have to be, Mexican-American. You can feel identified with this story. The story of authenticity and innovation is also something that you'll find, all along 1800, something very, very similar that goes side by side. It's a story of heritage. It's a story also of paying homage to where we are, where we live, and the communities that we built around us. Something that I always go back into is this experience that I have in like 2004 when I arrived to New York. And I have always had a fair good amount of English. And I still felt that people wouldn't understand me. And every time that people will ask me to repeat something back, I will doubt myself. And I watched this Italian person, speak English horribly to some of his friends, but just feeling like not doubting himself, And all of a sudden I understood that, that I didn't need to change my accent, that my accent also gave me a sense of belonging and represented my heritage. So I will never change it, And I work on wearing it kind of more on my skin, so I can feel more like myself. Like I can just speak the way that I speak. And if you can understand me, you can understand me, but I'm not gonna make any efforts to change it, Taste is an opportunity to give a storytelling, Taste is impacted by your heritage, By not doing and taking that opportunity of telling a story of who you are, where you belong, where you come from, you're kind of missing something. Check out the rest of our Taste Collective masterclasses and learn how 1800 can improve your understanding of taste.